was.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
He's been writing
All right. We're live, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce us. Okay, are we good? Everybody good? Everybody has some signals and what have you. All right. From the low desert of the great American Southwest, this is the Electric Batcast. I'm Mikhail. I'm the showrunner and producer for Rachel's brand new blockbuster podcast called the Electric Batcast. This is Rachel Bess.
I'm Rachel.
And we are joined by a very, very special guest today from Stern Pinball, Mr. Mike Vinikour.
Hello, everybody. I came all the way here from Chicago just to hang out with you guys and be on your show.
Cheers.
We're grateful.
We have some hot chocolate here.
I got water, but it's always
Del Taco water.
Del Taco water, yeah.
How do I drink this with a mic in front of my face?
You need a straw.
Oh, you do. You need like a.
But then I can't get the marshmallows.
A metal straw.
Well, you save them for the end, and that's like your treat for finishing the hot chocolate.
Yeah. Let's see. Does this thing right? Oh, I don't need that. What do I need? Here we go. Mike, you're in Phoenix.
I am for the first time in 4 years.
Yeah.
What do you think so far?
Oh, I love it here. First of all, it's winter back home in Chicago, so the fact that it was like 78 degrees and I kind of wished I wore shorts today was a huge plus.
Yeah.
The weather was just absolutely perfect. It's the scenery's nice. It's
for sure.
Good change of pace.
Yeah.
I looked out and I saw a mountain. I'm like, wow, I don't get to see that in the sky back home because everything's flat. All I see is buildings.
Right.
But it's nice to be back. The last time I was here was for ZapCon in 2019. That was 4.5 years ago. So cool. I was really excited to come back. And you guys have been asking me to come back for about 4.5 years.
Yes. Right.
So I was glad I finally got to come out here. Like the stars and the moons aligned after a false start last week of when I was supposed to be here.
Right. I'm glad you finally made it. Last time you were here, you saw the original Electric Bat.
Yes.
Which was tiny.
Yes.
And how many machines would you say were in the OG Bat?
I would accurately say that there were 13 pinball machines in the original Electric Bat and some number of video games and a bubble hockey.
I am really excited to come see it tomorrow when we go over there because you guys expanded twice, I believe, since my last trip.
We have. And we've gone from, what did you say, how many?
13.
Machines? 13 machines to 60 pins and then a bunch of video games.
Yep.
Yeah. That's really good. Everybody is really excited to play pinball with you tomorrow. You come into the Sunday event, which is Chewy's world famous end of year bash, where Chewy gives out all kinds of presents to the boys and girls of the Arizona pinball scene, and it's one of the best days and nights in pinball.
Did you know that we're giving away one of those $500 Stern lights tomorrow?
No, I don't even have one of those, and I work
for Stern. You could win tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would love to win that because those things are fantastic looking.
Right.
And I could carve out some space in my house for that for sure, even though wall space is at a premium.
Right. So the fans knew you were coming. And we're going to open up with a few questions.
Okay. And by the way, fans, I have a couple things prizes to donate to the prize pool tomorrow as well. Yeah,
very cool. You've shown me a few of them, and some of them are very special.
Yes.
Nothing you can buy online or purchase at a store.
Nothing that we sell on the website.
This is something truly special, and I can't wait for the fans to see this. We're gonna start out with a question.
So these are not for Mike.
Oh, we're starting right here.
These are for Mike. These are general questions.
Thank you so much.
I'll answer the general ones too. It's fair game as long as the general question isn't, hey, what's the next Stern game, or when's the next Stern game coming out, or what's your dream theme? Those are things I cannot answer.
So let's get right into it.
Yeah.
This is for MXV, and if you don't know, that's Mike's initials.
Yeah.
And so if you see,
and it's my professional name basically is MXV. Yeah.
Right. So we see this a lot on Sterns. They ship with your initials in there.
Right. Yeah.
This is great. And there's the MXV skill shot. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Okay.
Because somebody asked a question about that.
Okay.
And, so this is for MXV. What factor of design / building a machine do you think most people are unaware of that you think should be highlighted or made public?
Wow, that's a really good question. So, to back it up a little bit, before the pandemic happened, Mark Guidarelli and I used to do a panel at pinball shows. We did it 2 or 3 times, I think, that we would highlight the behind the scenes of Stern Pinball, but we wouldn't talk about like your Dwight Sullivans, or your Brian Eddies, or your John Borgs, all the people that everybody knows. Mm-hmm. We would talk about the dozens and dozens of people that worked on those same games that people don't know who they are and what they do.
Right.
You know, we got like the mechanical engineers, we got the electrical engineers, we got the artists. You know, like there's an entire team that does all the stuff that you see on the LCD screen.
Right.
Chuck Ernst leads that whole team. You know, we've got like the Gabby and Letty that handle the bill of materials for every game. Like they have to track every single piece right down to every screw and washer on a game.
Right.
You know, and how much it costs, and keep that thing updated as the things are being developed. You know, there's so many different people that, you know, all the sales and the marketing people, you know, like everybody that works in the factory to build the machines, you know, the people that procure the parts. So there's a lot of people that you don't hear about.
Sure.
But their jobs, those games would never happen if it wasn't for them as well. Like they're every bit as important as your playfield designer, your lead programmer / rule designer, or your rule designer, like when I help do rules, or your sound man, you know, like all that stuff, you know, all those other ones are just as important.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
But nobody talks about them on the, you know, in forums.
And most importantly, the accounting department.
Yes, yeah. Because they're the ones that have to, you know, cut our paychecks.
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah. Make sure this machine keeps running.
Yes, we don't do this for free. I mean, we like to get paid for our hard work because we all put in a lot of long hours to make these games.
Yeah. Good deal. This is a really interesting one. This is this from Atomic Bob?
I haven't.
We're not sure.
No, I don't know who that is.
Whoever that's from, they'll recognize it, and we thank you for your question. This is a good one. If you had to choose a wrestler to represent each of the last 4 machines you worked on, who would they be?
Oh, wow.
So this person knows you.
Yeah.
Or knows of you.
Geez, that's a hard one. So is it like the ones that I had, like any machine I worked on? Like, because there's like, you know, because some of them I just did light shows, and some of them I did, you know, rules, and some of them, a couple of them I didn't do much besides like achievements. But man, the 4 wrestlers, and could they be from any era of wrestling?
I'm going to say yes. We're not just limiting it from 1985 right to now.
Yeah, well, so I'm trying to think the last 4 games I worked on. So one of them would be James Bond, which was my largest rule design role. You know, I was the lead rule designer on that game. So that one would have to be like a main event, like top draw. So that's like your Stone Cold Steve Austin or your Hulk Hogan or The Rock, you know. So pick one for that.
Okay.
And then let's see, Venom is our newest game, and I helped out a little bit with rules, but not anywhere near the extent of like, you know, a Stranger Things or a Bond.
Sure.
So that one would be more like a mid-card guy, right? So, and but the work was still very important. Like I think Dwight and Brian will tell you that my contributions were very good when they asked for my help. So maybe Macho Man Randy Savage, you know, because he was like he was much more popular for the intercontinental level, but he was one heck of a great worker, you know, in the ring. And let's see, so before that, what was the game before Venom? Foo Fighters, I did expression lights on there. So again, like I had nothing to do with rules or the design of the game, but the expression lights, so flashy, like, you know, eye candy.
You're like the ring girl.
But Foo Fighters is a newcomer. That's like a rookie, right?
Not so much anymore, because the women wrestle, you know, the women's division in wrestling for me these days is far more interesting than the guys wrestling. Like the women's matches and stuff, there's so many great female wrestlers now, like, and their matches are actually more believable for me at watching than the male, like the men's matches, you know. Like, so I actually prefer, like, a WWE, I rarely watch it. I always watch AEW. But when I watch WWE, the female matches are the best ones on the show.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of like top-notch lady MMA UFC, but for some reason they still have ring girls. I don't know why there's still ring girls.
No,
seems weird.
No ring guys.
Yeah.
No.
The manager character in wrestling is like largely phased out in most places, although AEW has its fair share.
Right. When I was into it, you had Jimmy Hart.
Right. Who, by the way, bought me lunch last month when we were.
Are you kidding
when
me?
we were in Nashville? We went to Whataburger and he treated me for
Jimmy
dinner.
Hart?
I'm sorry, he went to lunch. It was dinner. Yeah, I have a picture.
Wow.
I got a picture of him and me. It's on my Instagram.
How cool.
Yeah. Like
and then, Captain Lou Albano.
Yeah. He's sadly gone.
Yeah.
But so I'd say like, okay, so somebody more flashy. And not to like discredit the modern women wrestlers, so I don't want to use like a valet for my. So I'll use like just a more like flashy, flamboyant type of wrestler. So man, it would be like
what's a valet?
Valet is like when the women managers were often called valets.
Oh, okay.
And they would come out with the wrestler, like Elizabeth, basically, Miss Elizabeth.
Yes.
She's, that was Macho Man's wife for a while.
Oh.
But she was his manager. But now in modern terms, they refer to them as valets more than managers. Right. So like if the woman would come out, and escort the man to the ring.
Are men valets or only women?
They could be. I mean, I never really remember them being referred to as that. But that's not to say that it wouldn't apply. In today's world, it would certainly apply. Like anybody could be a valet. Like if I came to the ring with you, I could be your valet.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sort of your valet.
Yeah, you're my valet.
Yeah.
You also drive me around. I tell you where to go.
I do drive you around.
So flashier. I'll go with like somebody more known for looks, like a flashy appearance. Like this is pretty old school, but maybe like a superstar Billy Graham or Gold Dust. I'll go with Gold Dust.
Yeah.
The Jesus guy?
Gold Dust?
No, Billy Graham.
No,
he's a wrestler.
So superstar Billy Graham was like a jacked up muscle dude with long blonde hair.
Yeah.
Picture Hulk Hogan before there was Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan stole most of his gimmick from superstar Billy Graham.
And the two are not related. Like
he's not the religious guy.
No.
No, I would never put the religious guy over like that.
Well, I thought that I thought maybe like the wrestler guy was like doing a take on
no.
He comes in like he's got the Bible as the thing and he's gonna like.
There have been people that done the Bible thumper type gimmicks. So that's 3.
Stranger Things, right?
Stranger Things. So again, like that was my main event status, but I had to share the spotlight more because it was a 3-man team, right?
Okay.
It was Brian, Lonnie, and me, and it was pretty equal. I did contribute a ton of the rule design to that, though. So that's more like...
So you guys are like the Rock and Roll Express.
The Fabulous Freebirds.
Okay.
Because that was a 3-man tag team.
Oh,
so
right.
the Fabulous Freebirds was Stranger Things.
Yeah, right on.
And you never know which 2 you're going to get if it's when it comes time to defend the belt. So there you go.
Right on. I like that.
Yeah.
It's weird how I know so little.
Great question for whoever answered that because
I wish I knew who it was.
Gutter Ghoul, I remember. I'm almost positive.
I love to mix my love of wrestling with basically all of life.
Yes.
My job.
Gutter Ghoul always comes up with fantastic questions for the pod. And now we're going on to Derek Betts. This is via email. This is a good one.
Okay.
He knows you are a music fan, and so his question is, how are you handling living in a post-Skinny Puppy world? Skinny Puppy and Kiss calling it done in the same week was a lot for me to take in. Keep up the great work on the podcast. It's the best.
Well, so
how you dealing with that?
That again, great question. I'm wearing a Skinny Puppy shirt.
Right.
What shirt were you wearing yesterday?
I was wearing a different Skinny Puppy shirt yesterday. And you know what? I might be wearing a different one tomorrow,
That'd
too.
Be awesome.
So, so it's interesting that he brought that both of those bands ended in the same week because when I was a kid in the 70s, Kiss were superheroes to me. Like I had the toys, I had a handful of the records, not all of them because I wasn't a hardcore record collector back then, but I loved records since the age of like 5 or 6. So, and Kiss was one of my favorite bands in the 70s. Kiss, then was Cheap Trick, then was AC/DC.
Right.
It was just weird timing that like 2 of my most favorite band of all time and one of my all-time favorite bands called it quits within days of each other, right? After a 40-year and a 50-year career, respectively. Excuse me. Okay. I'm all choked up thinking about the loss of these good bands.
Right.
Kiss was more than overdue.
Yeah.
I think Skinny Puppy might have had a lot to offer, but I mean, like those guys are in their low 60s now, and you can't do that forever. And they hadn't done anything. The last time I shot them was in 2015, and they hadn't done a record since the year before, and they haven't toured since then or played a single show until this year. So it seemed like they were done anyway, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we're going to do this farewell tour. I was grateful for the opportunity to see them 3 last times on this tour. I shot all 3 nights in Chicago, but most times your favorite band, or even not any band, will typically get in a fight, call it quits, or they just decide they're done, and the fans don't get the opportunity to know this ahead of time, so they can go say goodbye and have like one last hurrah. It was great for a Skinny Puppy fan, especially one like as big as me, to have an opportunity to be like, all right, this is it. I know it going in, so I could really soak it in. And I was grateful I was given the opportunity to shoot all 3 nights here, so I could document it. And I got the best pictures I've ever taken of any of the times I shot them over the years.
Where can people see these? Or can they?
Yeah, they can on my website, the Punk Vault, which if you go to punkvinyl.com, PUNKVINYL, or punkvault.com will also take you there.
Cool.
All my pictures are on there. And I like I said, the best pictures I ever shot of them on any tour. So I was really proud. Like, it was a great ending for me. Like, 3 nights in a row, my favorite band. The shows were fantastic, so they went out on a real high note. And I got to capture some, the best images I've ever done of my favorite band. So I will miss them, but I'd rather them go out on top and leave a flawless discography behind and a perfect legacy than to like wear out their welcome, which a lot of bands do.
I was just going through the catalog, just listening to it, like, beginning to end kind of stuff the other night. Man, good stuff. And we were actually looking at those photos before. I didn't tell you about any of these questions ahead of time. I thought that was funny that you happened to bring, hey, check out my Skinny Puppy pictures.
Yeah, because I didn't know if you saw them. I'm real proud of them. So much so that I went and had prints made of a few just to hang them in my home. And I rearranged stuff in the house to make room to put them in key areas where most people will see them if they come over.
For people that don't know, Mike and I, whenever we get together, like to talk about industrial music.
Yeah. So
our shared.
I was a huge still a big punk rock guy, but punk rock was what changed my life. But industrial music was a different spin on punk rock for me in the late 80s, early 90s. And that, again, life-changing. And my favorite band is an industrial band. So, I have a huge affinity for that stuff. And I still listen to it all the time. It's awesome.
Very cool.
One of our bartenders, her name is Dusty, and she just finished doing a little tour with the Darts. And when they were in San Francisco, they were hanging out with Jello, and I thought that was funny. She was just telling me that tonight.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
He's one of my punk rock legends, icons,
Yeah.
My punk rock heroes.
Yeah, Dusty's super cool. She is a rock star and one of our bartenders at the Tiki Bar. Will Mike meet her tomorrow?
I was just going to ask that.
I don't know if she's working tomorrow or if someone else is. Maybe.
Either way. Well, we'll tell her to come hang out. She can come hang out with us. Thank you so much, Derek Betts. Thank you so much for being
your listeners have great questions, by the way.
I'm really enjoying attention.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying these.
Now this is our friend from across the pond, Hugh Jorgen. Remember Mr. Jorgen? Hugh Jorgen says, "Hey guys, if you have Mike V on, then firstly congratulate him on his involvement with Bond. We do have him on right now, and
congratulations on your involvement.
Thank you.
We love Bond. He says, what a great game. Easily my favorite game.
Wow, that's high praise.
Right.
From a Hugh Jorgen.
Yeah.
Man, I love playing that thing. If you could ask him if he could do just one thing and make the Bond Girl multiplier/smart missile button either completely different colors or maybe a long press for multiplier and then quick press for missile. Pink and red are a little close in shades when you're in the thick of it. And quickly press for one and get the other. I don't know how many times I've wasted a multiplier when I thought it was a missile.
So
wow.
It's funny you say that. I'm weighing. I have this this inner battle happening in my head of, do I answer this question, and what's my risk of getting fired? So I'm gonna roll the dice and tell you this is an exclusive for the.
Okay.
We are changing one of those colors, so it will be more discernible that they're two different things. The red, we agreed that the red and the pink were too close together. So that I won't tell you what it's changing to, but that will be changing.
And really, you just decided that on the fly because Hugh Jorgen.
wrote
I bet Mr. Jorgen is going to be very excited to hear that.
Hugh Jorgensen.
Right. And thank you.
Is that Al's nephew or something?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to the next one. Number 3. This is from our friend Roland. He
was the drummer in Big Black.
Really?
Well, the Big Black had a drum machine, and Roland was the drum machine, but they would credit the drum. It said Roland drum, so they treated Roland like he was a band member, even though it was a drum machine.
You know what's so great about
Good old
this?
808.
This Roland, who I think you'll meet him tomorrow.
Okay.
He wears Roland gear.
Really?
That's
awesome.
Yeah, the keyboard folks. I actually turned him on to it. I was like, did you realize Roland is now a lifestyle brand? And he bought a hoodie, a shirt, and I told him there are socks available. So he'll enjoy that. He wants your opinion on shirt wipers. The guys who play pinball who wipe the machine down with their shirt.
This maneuver.
You know what? I have done that in a pinch. And I'll tell you why, because sometimes I don't really play in tournaments ever, but same thing applies in Pinball League, which I do play in one. Some people sweat a lot when they play the game, and there's a small handful of people that play in my league that bring a towel to wipe down the game.
Right.
We sell one.
Yeah, do you? That's super smart.
We'll hook you up tomorrow.
So, okay, yeah, please.
It'll make a great Christmas present. It's available on our website.
Does it have a little hook where I could hook it to my?
It's a carabiner.
That's brilliant.
Yes.
Perfect. So I've done that in a pinch when I know that some sweaty guy,
greasy fellas.
Yes, and I'm not going to call out anybody by name, but I've done the t-shirt technique, and it's better than putting your hands in a pool of sweat.
Right.
But then you have their sweat up against your stomach.
It's true. Usually my shirt's long enough where I try to do the bottom so it's not touching my skin. But yeah, I mean, it's better than the alternative, but ideally you'd have
so we'll get you a bat towel.
Yeah, please. You'd have a towel. So, because it's gross, and I carry hand sanitizer wherever I go. So, I mean, every time I touch a game, you guys will see me tomorrow. If I play anything, and I will, as soon as I'm done with the ball, if it's a multiplayer game, I'm squirting that stuff all over my hands because I tend to get sick a lot, and now in a post-COVID world, although we're never going to be post-COVID, but you know what I mean? I'm even more germophobic than I used to be.
Sure. We're all more aware of it.
Yeah, for sure.
We wish people would stop breathing on us.
Yeah. I mean, I just got over COVID, which is why I had to delay my trip by a week because I went to go get some medical tests done that my doctor ordered for something else. And some kid was in there coughing up a storm without covering her mouth, coughed right at me. Wow. And I could guarantee you, since it was also in the same room as the urgent care was, that the kid probably had COVID.
100%.
And, the timeline matched up where my symptoms 5 days later. I'm like, man.
Bingo bango.
Yep.
Good deal. Roland would also like to know your thoughts on bananas. And what he means by this is we have this long-running gig on our Discord where we talk about the ripeness of bananas and when they're good to eat.
This is not a metaphor. It's a...
Oh, no. I don't think there's any penis jokes happening here.
Right.
I get it.
Do you eat bananas?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So... I'm not, as you guys, you've known me for a few years, but you might not have come to the conclusion that I'm not the picture of health, right? For example, we went to In-N-Out Burger yesterday and Del Taco today, right?
Yeah.
So,
but this is a special occasion.
Right, but it is. And I don't have either one of them back home, and I don't eat a lot of hamburgers anymore back home. I save it for when I travel.
Or when we travel and you take us to Kuma's.
Exactly, yeah. In fact, that one, I kept my promise. I'm not going back there until the spring because I went to Kuma's 3 times this year, and you've been there now. That's too much of a blowout to do more that much. 3 times for me is pushing it based on my recent health history. Anyway, but so I don't eat a lot of fruit and vegetables. I should eat more, and someday I hope to get myself more together. But bananas is one of the ones, is probably my favorite fruit.
Okay.
It's great because, like, you know, the potassium in there is great for when you're sore too, and it's good even if you have an upset stomach. You know, it's very safe. So bananas is my favorite, and I like to make banana chips in my food dehydrator.
Oh,
too. I make homemade banana chips.
Do you have a mandolin?
I do.
Okay,
yeah. So I prefer I prefer the bananas if I'm just going to eat them and not make chips out of them to be more on the yellow side because they're sweeter.
Yeah.
And they just taste way better and they're a little softer.
Right.
The more green they are, they're not as they're like crunchier.
Kind of astringent that sucks all the liquid out of your mouth.
But if you're making banana chips, again, the sweetness applies.
Yeah.
But you'll get crispier banana chips if they're like more green than yellow.
They're easier to cut.
They're easier to cut too. So I like them like when they're more like mostly not green, but not full on yellow if I'm making chips, banana chips, but full yellow if I just want to eat them. Because the sweetness tastes better. If they're too green, it just like it just tastes like, it's almost like the same as like undercooked meat. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I could taste. I'm like, it's not ready yet.
I like my bananas tangy and hard.
Yeah. And you also like your meat raw.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I like my medium. Like, I'll get a steak or a burger medium well. You're probably more of like a medium rare guy, right?
I am.
Yeah, so there you go.
Good deal. Well, we can still hang out and have a good time.
Yeah, but by the way, I highly recommend. Like, I have a food dehydrator. It cost me like $100.
Yeah.
And I add nothing to my banana chips. I literally slice them with the mandolin, slice them, lay them on the rack, and I dehydrate them for like 14, 16 hours. And then I just put them in a Ziploc bag. But the biggest problem is I can't stop eating them once I start. Yeah. They're so good and they're thin. So you'll just, next thing you know, I'll finish a Ziploc bag. I'm like, wow, I just ate like 7 bananas and banana chips, you know.
I think I'm going to start doing that. And the good thing is here in Phoenix, I don't think we need a dehydrator.
You just put them outside,
we just
in the middle of summer,
like
slice them up and put them on a cookie sheet in your driveway.
We do have these mesh dehydrators. They're like, it's like mesh all the way around to keep the bugs out.
Yeah.
And it has little shelves, and you just put them out.
Oh, wow.
You can also get food dehydrators at Goodwill for $2, and that's your most recent pinball news.
Wow, there you go.
What a great tip. I don't think Roland expected such a great answer about bananas.
Oh,
thorough.
You went in 2 different directions.
Yeah.
And Roland likes to cook. I bet he's going to try some bananas.
Home cooking tips with MXV.
Yeah, good deal. Thank you, Roland, and we can't wait to play with you tomorrow. Here we have another question from Discord from Caffeine Slug.
That's Ben.
So wait, when you say Discord, you're talking about the chat gimmick and not the famous punk rock record label that I collect, right?
Correct.
Okay. I wasn't even aware of that.
Yes.
Are you on our Discord?
I am not. I don't use Discord. I don't use Discord.
You should. It's great.
Yeah. We used it at Stern very briefly, then we moved on to use something else.
Okay.
So I
like Slack or something?
Yeah, we use Slack a lot.
Slack's popular.
And we use that constantly.
I prefer Discord.
Do you? Mm-hmm. I don't know why we chose one or the other. Probably our IT guys probably insisted
Slack
on it.
might be more functional for a job.
It's probably
thing.
more secure too, and which would be huge for us, So anyway, so it's Discord from the channel, not from the record label.
Exactly.
Right.
And I'm glad you asked me.
But that would be cool if all these people were writing to us from Discord, like just the...
I mean, I'm a huge Discord records collector since I was in high school. Like, it's one of my favorite labels ever, So they put out like Minor Threat and Fugazi.
Oh, nice.
And, the Teen Idols, like Government Issue, had a couple record on there.
I've purchased some of their stuff.
We have some Discord.
Yeah, Shudder to Think, like Jawbox, so many great bands on that. I will blindly buy anything that record label puts out still to this day.
Right. After we're done, we should probably go through
I should look at
our
your
collection, and you could tell us which is mine and which is hers.
All right, that'd be a fun game. Yeah, let's do that. That'll actually be fun.
The ones you sent are all mine.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, so Caffeine Slug from the Discord. This is a good question. Are there any recent games that he, MXV, thinks should have an MXV skill shot but don't currently have one? And is Bond going to get one?
I will answer both of those. Godzilla and yes, there will be one in James Bond. It was the first thing I designed in the game before I came up with a single rule for the game. I came up with my own skill shot.
Very good.
It will also be one
too.
of the last things that ever goes in the game.
Right.
But that's fine because the missing wizard mode and the stuff that the Spectre weapon perks are far more important than another skill shot. Right. So we prioritize the stuff, and my skill shots usually come in last.
You think Godzilla should have one? Is that what you're saying?
I thought of one, and then
Can you tell us what it is?
No. I cannot. Yeah.
Because it might happen.
It hopefully will happen someday. I mean, I was told at one point it might get one. I mean, they like the one I pitched, but, it's up to them to put it in, and I hope they do because I was really proud of it.
Okay.
And but don't go posting on Pinside. Oh yeah, there's one coming, and now the game's incomplete because there was never a promise that I would have one in there. All I ever can do is pitch one to whatever team that is. And in the case of that, like I didn't have any design input other than some of the achievements early on Godzilla. So I can't be like, oh, you got to put in my skill shot. It's not my game. It's Keith's game. So it's totally up to them, Right. But I did throw one their way if they ever choose to want to put it in.
Very good.
But
interesting tidbit.
Yeah.
So that is going to get some talk on Pinside. I mean, it's going to happen.
Well, I mean,
but none of us will see it.
I mean, at this point, it hasn't happened. It probably won't. But there was a point where I pitched one. And that's that doesn't mean the game's not complete. The game's totally complete. That's my favorite game. Right. Like I bought one. It beat Addams Family for my favorite pinball of all time. It's Godzilla. Like.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, that game is is pretty much perfect to me. It's a perfect
do you
game.
have one at home?
Oh yeah,
Godzilla.
Yeah. Premium.
Premium.
Yeah.
And do you have an Addams Family?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had an Addams Family for like 25 years, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
And neither one of those will ever leave my house.
Bolted.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what the kids call it.
But Bond will absolutely have an MXV Super Skill Shot.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to when it goes in. I might have redesigned it at one point because I thought of one I liked better than my original one.
Yeah,
but it will come.
We love our Bond Premium. We just pimped it out with the new the
art blades.
Art blades. So cool. The art blades look cool. We put a shaker motor in there, and we haven't opened it, but we have a topper.
Oh yeah, you got to put that on.
Yeah, you might.
Tomorrow, tomorrow. Let's put it on.
Okay,
tomorrow,
let's do it
when I come to the arcade. Because the light shows that those guys did, Wason did most of the topper light shows for us, and he did a really beautiful job on them. They really look good.
Cool, very cool. Right on. Thank you very much for your question, Caffeine Slug, and thank you for being a fan of the cast. And that's Ben, right? We know Ben.
Yeah.
Ben's a great guy. He's from Tucson.
He operates
Pinball.
in Tucson.
Just go see, where can they play Ben's games?
At Catalina Brewing, I believe.
Okay, in Tucson, Arizona.
How far is Tucson from here? It's not super
2
close.
hours.
2 hours. I
heard
that one was one of the ones that wasn't close, whereas like
straight shot.
Tempe and Mason, Scottsdale, they're all like, all
that's the valley.
Yeah.
Right. All right, we have another question from Atomic Bob on Discord. Our 17-year-old son will be off to college soon, and his dream is to someday work for Stern. His goal is to eventually become a game designer. Any advice on what he should focus on?
Well, first of all, have a plan B. Because, I would say that with any career. Like, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
Right now, all my eggs are in this basket. But my life path was very unique, and it's been talked about in your Alta shows. So,
give us the Cliff's Notes. So you were like a professional Mortal Kombat player,
right?
That was discovered by Midway.
Well, it wasn't even so much that. Like, I was one of the best Mortal Kombat 2 players in Chicago, the Chicagoland area, and I met a dude at a punk rock show. It was this band, the Boll Weevils. I met a guy at a Boll Weevils show named Bill, who, and the only reason why I even met him because he was wearing a Mortal Kombat T-shirt, and that was at a time that you couldn't buy Mortal Kombat merch anywhere.
Right.
So even though I was shy and I didn't like talking to people that I didn't know, I went up to this perfect stranger and asked him where he got the shirt, and it turned out he worked at Midway Games, and I'm like, well, and I basically said, well, man, I would love to be a game tester there. I'm one of the best Mortal Kombat players in the world, probably, And I thought he'd just tell me, screw you, go away.
Yeah.
And instead, he asked me for my number. He goes, yeah, I'm working on a game that we could probably use some testing soon. Give me your number, and I'll call you. And he did. And that changed the course of my life. I didn't plan this career at all.
Right.
So that's not how I recommend doing things. Now
go to more punk shows.
Right, yeah. But and then, 28 years later, saw the same band, met my girlfriend Chris, who we've been together for almost a year and a half. So that band directly changed my life without them knowing it until like years later when I told them. Anyway, but people these days are smarter and they plan things ahead. I had no ambition. So if you're planning a career, always, if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a mechanic, you want to be a game designer, you want to own an arcade, have a plan B, because things don't always work out, right? And even if it does, you won't likely be in a job forever. That's very rare. I thought I would work at Williams Bally Midway forever. And I worked there for 8 years, and then they closed the thing down, Right. So, and that was really unsettling to me, because I'm like, I really thought, I was young and naive enough to think, I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. This is awesome. It wasn't. And I had a lot of stretches of unemployment where like there were dark times, and I'm like, well, I don't really have any other good marketable skills that I could like keep the lights on with, So I had to like just grind it out and wait for opportunities, because I was also unwilling to move to another part of the country or another part of the state. Like, I'm not leaving my house. So, but the first thing, have a plan B, but pursue your dreams. But you can't go to a school to learn how to become a pinball designer. And also, I have to like answer the question with a question. What do you mean by pinball designer? Because there's a lot of aspects that go into that, right? Like,
well, I think he just says works at. Oh, no, he does say become a game designer.
Right. So if you want to be a playfield designer like a George Gomez or a Keith Elwin, the best advice I'd give you would be like, make your own game at home. I mean, look at the homebrew community, right? Like Keith Elwin got a job at Stern. Like his resume was that Archer game. Like he built an entire game.
Where is that
Jack
game
Danger
now?
Also.
Jack Danger, similar. Similar.
And a few other recent game designers.
I mean, look at Scott Denisi, right? Like he made TNA as a project that he wanted to make for himself. He took it to shows, and then a company picked it up and mass produced it. And now he's designed a few games, right? So if you want to be that route where you're designing the playfield, there's no better way than to, like learn SolidWorks and AutoCAD but get your hands dirty and just build something.
Also, I mean, you want to do that too, because there's a lot of people that say that they want to do this job, and then it's one thing to want to do it, and it's one thing to show people that I have enough drive to do it, even if it's like, a couple of steps, below like a production level game. You're at least doing it, and you're like, oh man, now I've learned about this doesn't work this way. I have to do something else, and to prove to people that you would like to pay you. Exactly. Yeah. And also, another reason I say, especially in this field, it's a very small field, right? Like if you were a computer programmer, you could get a job almost anywhere, right? Not just making games. You could write like, banking software. You could write, you could work for Google. You could. There's so many different ways, to do this thing. You could be programming websites, but if you're making designing pinball playfields, there's like, you can count on one hand largely the opportunities that would be there in the whole world to do that. So, but again, when I say, what do you mean by pinball designer? Do you want to program pinball machines, right? Because, largely the lead programmer is more often than not the lead rule designer. There's exceptions to that rule, but as a whole, that's usually how it works. You're still a game designer, but you're also a programmer, right? So you're doing both. And that also affords you much greater opportunity, because like if the game thing doesn't work out, like I said, you could program anything, I also think, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think it's important to do it, because you may find when you get into the literal nuts and bolts of it, like, this is not as fun as I thought it was.
Right.
Like,
so, that's a good point. I'm glad that you said that, because it was in the back of my head and I sidetracked myself. It's really important to everybody to know, like, from the outside looking in, and I get this all the time, especially when I was a game tester, back in the video game days. They're like, oh, well, all you do is play video games all day. But they think that as the industry as a whole, like, they think that...
Grandma's boy.
Right. Yeah. So they think, oh, yeah, that's got to be the easiest job in the world. All you do is play games. And it's not. Like, there's a lot of long hours, and there's a lot of stress, so it's not all fun and games. We make fun games, if we do our jobs correctly. And there is a lot of fun and creative stuff, but it's a lot of hard work and a lot of long, grueling hours. And none of us are getting rich off of this. Like, I know a lot of these guys that are programming games could take that skill and probably make more money programming banking software or working for Adobe, right?
Yeah.
But we do this because we love it. So, but it is a ton of hard work. So those are all important things to know, but always have a plan B. And then also, when your hobby becomes your job, it changes the hobby for you forever. Like, you will never look at games the same.
Right.
I worked on the video game side of this business for almost a quarter century, and I rarely play new video games. Other than the Nintendo Switch, I will likely never own a modern gaming console ever again.
What are you playing on the Switch?
I was playing Zelda largely.
Yeah? I tried to get into that, and it was too much for me.
It was too good.
Yeah, I need something more linear.
Oh, yeah. See, I was telling you guys in the car earlier, like, I just finished Tears of the Kingdom, the newest Zelda. 2 weeks ago, and I'm still have this depression of like there's a void in my life because there's this whole universe I was involved in, running around and getting all these quests done and finding all this stuff, and now that whole thing is gone to me. It's over.
The story's finished.
Yeah, the story's finished, and I'm just like, now what? Like I feel like aimless. Like, I'm aimless. I'm walking around with no purpose in life.
So you had to come hang out with us.
So I'm like, hey guys, can I still come visit? Yeah. I'm like, I need to squeeze it in another trip. But when your hobby becomes your job, it's now a job, and it will change forever, the hobby, and not necessarily for the better. I mean, I got so burned out on video games, I started to hate them for a number of years. And I never want to work on the video game side of the business ever again. Like, pinball, it's pinball or nothing for me. And I don't really have a plan B, which is, again, you should, but most people don't run into a dude at a punk rock show and your whole life changed like within the course of weeks,
But that's actually how Electric Bat got started. Not a punk rock show, but it was just a random, hey, do you want to do this kind of thing out of left field. But all three of us have had
happy accidents
and creative careers. You did music, I did art, and you do video game creation.
Well, pinball now, but I did video games.
Yeah. And it's very much when your passion becomes your job. You can make a very fun job, but the perspective is very different. So I think anybody that wants this career path should really try out this career path, because you can do a homebrew.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Yeah.
And, we happen to know these people, and the whole family is into pinball, and they're all great people. And Atomic Bob is an amazing, like, carpenter furniture guy. So, like, they have the technical skills as a family to make something like this happen. So it seems like that would be...
Yeah, you should absolutely, especially if you've got that kind of skill set built into your persona. Yeah, make a homebrew, and then that will also give you an experience of kind of like dipping your toes in the water of what it could be like, and then it will also, did you enjoy it when you made it, and can you see yourself doing that like constantly again and again. And also keep in mind that a homebrew, you've got no timeline of like, hey, you can take 7 years, you could take 17 years, right, to make your homebrew.
Yeah.
You have to make a game in a set schedule because the company needs a game, and they plan the whole thing. They put the whole machine behind that, right? Like the machine of the business, like all the resources and all the cost. And so like you got to start, and there's no stopping of like putting it away till later. Like you've got a deadline of like, you got to turn in a game to hit this production date.
And if it's not fun, you have to make it fun.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And also be prepared that you need a thick skin when you're designing things.
Because some of your ideas are going to get shot down, right?
Yeah, and like you could think you've got the greatest game in the world, and then you actually make it and it's not fun. And then you have to go back to figure out why isn't it fun and how do I make it fun?
Right.
And that's, especially if you're newer or if you have a fragile ego, it's a hard thing to hear when people are like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
But you need to hear it if it's not fun. But you also need to consider the source. If somebody just says your game sucks and walks away, like, well, what does that mean? Tell me why you don't like it. And then, so I could learn from it. You know, or you could learn from it if you're the one that designed it, because that's how games get better.
Yeah,
you know, nobody gets it right from the get go, and some of the best ideas on paper, and you put it in the game, and then they're not that great, and you don't realize it until you play it. That happened to Lonnie and me when we were on Kiss doing that big Kiss update. We like agonized over these things and talked about things for hours and wrote it all out of these designs we came up with when we were redesigning the modes and stuff. And we're like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And then he programs it in the game, and then we play it, and we're both like, yeah, this sucks. And then and then we didn't take it, you know, it didn't ruin our day. We're like, well, we got this one wrong. The game told us it wasn't fun. So now let's, how do we make it fun? What do? We came up with something else, and then it turned out to be the thing, you know?
Very cool. Right on. I'm sure Bob's 17-year-old son is going to love that. So basically, the first thing he needs to do is get an IP, right? He needs to talk to licensing.
Don't even do that. Just make a pinball playfield that you can, with all the stuff on it that you can flip. And there's enough resources and equipment and stuff out there. You can buy all the stuff that you need from various sources and just make your own thing. Don't even think about a theme. Don't think about rules. Just make a flipping playfield.
So check this out. What I tell people, a few people at the arcade have talked about their dream of wanting to build some type of pin. And I keep, are you familiar with a game called Stall Ball?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You play. You all get a single file line, and then you play the game,
and then you tag out when the ball gets held in something.
Right.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, why don't you just make a stall ball game? It'll be simple.
Yeah.
With just a few scoops or saucers, and two flippers, and I think that would be like a good start, because you don't have to worry about a whole bunch of other stuff. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's also selfish. You really want someone to make a stall ball game.
I want to get a stall ball game.
So we can, because we play a lot of stall ball at the arcade.
I'm 100,000% behind somebody pursuing their dreams in life. You only get one go on this planet. You should enjoy it to the fullest, and you should do things that make you happy. And if you could turn that into a career, I lucked into mine, but most people don't have the luxury of absolutely loving what they do.
Yeah.
So pursue it, but absolutely, have a fallback, have a plan B. But absolutely try it, because there's nobody's going to hand it to you. You got to go out and get it, make that mark for yourself.
Sure.
And these types of jobs aren't go to school and get this degree and then show your diploma and apply.
Right. It does not work that way. It doesn't work that way at all. I mean, for me, I couldn't have gone to school to learn what I learned, to do what I do.
Right.
But I also have a very unique role in the industry, and at Stern, which is a very atypical, thing, and I grew into it, but the other paths of programmer, artist, engineer, those things do have a path of going to school, and if younger me was smarter and was more motivated, maybe I would have gone to learn how to become a programmer, because that probably would have been a pretty good fit. I just I didn't know what I wanted to do,
right?
And then by the time I did, I happened into it, and I'm like, well, I don't have the time to go back to school or the motivation, and I also I'm not good at math, so
same.
So I always felt maybe I'm not smart enough to be a programmer. Other people disagree, that know me, but I don't know. I went down the path I did, but if I could go back and do it different, knowing what I know now, I would have, actually done better in school and high school, and I would have taken proper college classes to do. It would have helped me like a programmer. I was never had any art skills, so for me it would have been programmer.
It's important to aim high, and I think Bob's son should aim at like owning a company like Stern, and then maybe
settle for designing a game.
Right, and then he gets what he wants.
Right.
Well, what was the first machine you worked on at Stern?
Batman.
Yeah, Batman 66.
Yep.
Yeah. We have one, and great earner. And fan favorite.
I love that game. I think I mentioned this before with you guys. That one was special to me for a number of reasons. One, it was my first game that I got to work on at Stern. Mm. 2, I got to work on it with Lyman, and Lyman was the reason I got hired at Stern. Mm. And 3, I have my name on a patent with Lyman for that game, for the channel changing feature. Really? Yeah.
And for people who are not familiar with the feature, what is it?
When you have multiple modes running at once, there's on the LCD display, there's a big TV, you know, with what's going on in the mode that you're playing.
Okay.
And then there's little TVs surrounding it that have the other running modes at the same time going. And I came up with the idea to change the channel with the lockdown bar button, so you decide what's in the main screen, because that will change what music's playing, what light shows are happening.
Why have I never seen that? Have I not? I'm not that good.
It's more of an advanced player feature.
Okay. All right.
And it's not explained anywhere on the screen, like, oh, hold the button down to change channel. Right. I don't think we ever put any text on there.
So if another not just pinball the company, but I guess any gaming company, if they want to use something like that, you get a cut.
No,
that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. I wish, but first of all, nobody's done that. You're like, that's the only game that has it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work. Sadly, it doesn't work that way now. But like, nobody can do that same feature in a game that's not Stern Pinball. You know, because the patent belongs to Stern, but like our names are on it. You know,
I see how that works. Yeah, right on. What is your favorite classic Stern game?
Well, I don't know if I could pick one. They're all so good.
They are. We love them.
I'm trying to think, because Keith Elwin owned most of them at one time, and he had brought a couple in before the pandemic into the office when we were all working in the office still, and I played a lot of like Quicksilver. 9-Ball is really high on my list. I love Sea Witch, but although I think Beatles was the better use of, like I like what George did to Sea Witch when we made Beatles. Yeah, I love Beatles.
And now you guys put the Sea Witch code into
Dean
Beatles,
did
right?
that before he passed away, and he actually done it sometime before, and then it just never got in the game until later. Okay. But yeah, you can play Beatles with the Sea Witch rule set, like the classic Sea Witch rules.
That's so cool.
And that was all Dean's idea. And
it was a good idea.
It was, and he did that in his spare time. Like, that wasn't part of the design, but he wanted to do it. So he just gave up a bunch of his free time to put that in the game.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Rachel's on the playfield.
Yes, I remember you told me that.
Yeah. You're going to play in the tournament with us tomorrow, right? Or you're just going to hang out?
I was just going to hang out.
Oh, okay. When is the last time you actually played in the tournament?
I played in a tournament at Lynn's Arcade when I was out there in August. And I didn't want to. I just wanted to go hang out. Yeah. And Emoto paid for me to enter it. And then they all peer pressured me and bullied me into playing. And I ended up having a really fun time.
Yeah.
And I got way farther than I thought I was going to be. I think I finished like 4th or something. I didn't get anything, but I mean, I couldn't believe I got as far as I did.
Right. Aren't there games like set up super hard with like lightning flippers?
Yeah. And when it was my pick, I was picking classics, which were not with lightning flippers. Just because smart. I'm like, I don't want to play Modern Sterns because I got them all at home or at work, right? So, which is at home. But I wanted to play games I don't have access to. So I was picking like the solid states, like they had to Beat the Clock, which I love that game.
Oh, nice.
Keith
you don't see those very often.
You don't.
We played at the museum back in the day.
That game is so fun. I really want to. Keith was going to let me take his home and and have it at my house, and I don't know what he ended up doing with it. Like next time I see him, I got to ask him.
Yeah,
like,
where's that game?
Yeah, I want that. Take that down. I'll take down one of my personal games and put that up to play it.
Yeah,
it's so fun. But yeah, I mean, I like most of those games. I don't know if I've even played every classic Stern, but Nine Ball is way up there. Quicksilver's way up there. Stars is pretty fun. I mean, I can't. You couldn't say name a bad one.
Right.
They were all so good.
We right now we have at the arcade we have Stars.
Yeah.
Meteor.
Meteor is a lot of fun too. Yeah.
And Stargazer.
Oh, all great games. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They killed it back then. Like they made such good games.
Right.
Yeah, they're excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And at Just Games, the arcade I grew up at, we didn't have any of them. So I only got to see them like at other places, like they had all the Williams games and stuff. But man, I didn't.
The old Sterns had already gone into the dumpster from the old operators back when they used to do.
Oh yeah, that's possible. But man, like I missed out on some of those until I was much older.
Yeah,
and I'd see them at pinball shows. I'm like, wow, these things are awesome.
Yeah, they're so great. They're so great. Rachel really, when I got back into pinball. When I was working at Marco Specialties, she was like pay close attention to all of these classic Sterns anytime we're at a convention, and I've totally fallen in love with them. So I kind of have a question for both of you guys, and it's about the pinball industry and where it is now. You hear so much. Arcades died, right? And they did. In the 80s because of console gaming, because of home gaming. And you hear a lot of people still kind of talk about, the great days of the arcade. But I look at today, and just in the valley here in the Arizona, in the Phoenix Valley, the amount of pinball arcades that have popped up over the past 5 years will make your head spin. You have Starfighters, which they have almost 60 pins, electric bat 60 pins, and there are another 5 or 6 arcades.
They have like 20.
Yeah, and
now all of these are they all like the barcade model? They're bars that have games, or are any of them like a pure arcade where it's just games and there's no alcohol?
Well, some
or
of them,
food.
Like one of them, our friend, Atomic Bob, who asked that question about his son, they have a mid-century, like a vintage store, and they also have now, 15 machines, 12 machines.
Oh, wow.
So there's no booze. It's a furniture store and arcade.
Yeah,
right. And Starfighters that I mentioned,
that is a straight arcade.
That's a straight arcade, just snacks and drinks, no booze. Tons of video games and pinball machines. And my question is are the arcades back?
I think they're back in a different way. Like the classic arcade of the 80s into the late 90s, like literally every single arcade that from the 80s and 90s in my area just being, talking Chicagoland, so the city proper, and then on all the western and northern suburbs. Like I live in the western suburbs. There is not one arcade left that I ever went to in the 80s or 90s, or that we ever had used as a field test place. They're all gone. 100% of them are gone. Wow. They were all, the last of them went out. It was like the last couple of holdouts were like FECs. Wait, I take that back. Enchanted Castle is still around, so there's one, and that's an FEC.
And if the fans don't know what an FEC is,
Family Entertainment Center. Right. So they've got
that's a Dave and Buster's.
Dave and Buster's, yeah. But so they serve food and possibly drinks. A
lot of kiddie gambling,
meaning the redemption games, and big driving and shooting games. Like Enchanted Castle, I don't even think has a single pinball machine. And they've had times where they've had them, got rid of them, got some, got rid of them. The last time I was over there were none again. So I don't even really count it because it's not like it used to be.
Right.
It's largely just the ticket games, the kiddie gambling. But now that's all been replaced with mostly barcades. But because the interest in pinball has gone up, and even classic arcade games saw a resurgence too. Yep. That now that there is a market for arcades again, but the business model has changed. Either you pay the admission for a lot of these places, and they're all on free play, or they also have like alcohol and food to, and the games, the attraction. They gets them to sell more drinks and food.
Right.
But all of it together makes the experience, and and that's how they're able to survive. But you tell me it's different for you, but you are in a bar.
Well, but for us, I don't think we've ever talked about this before, but very much the bulk of our income is from the coin drop. The bar doesn't even come close to what the coin drop does. So we make a good amount in coin drop. Now, if there was no bar, the coin drop would be much, much smaller.
Right. And that has also grown for you over the years, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm asking, when you started versus now, 5 years later.
Well, when we started, we didn't have a bar. We were attached to a bar, so I'm not including.
Okay, but I mean, like the coin drop. I mean, it has to have grown, obviously.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've quadrupled or more in size. Yeah. So the coin drop has more than quadrupled. But
do you also find like that? I mean, clearly it had to have helped, but do you find that it's also necessary to be successful in your field? Because you do a lot of leagues, and you really you guys spend a lot of time making and running events that draw people in there versus just opening the door and like, here's a bunch of games, you want to play them, because in the old days that we were just talking about, all the arcade did was they had a room full of games, and they would give you change for the token machine.
That little belt thing.
Yep. And then there was no people running tournaments or contests or anything. Mm-hmm. It's like, we open the doors at this time, we close them at this time, we'll make change for you, and we'll fix the games when they're broken. And that was the whole business. Sometimes, yeah. It depends on the place. Right. But that was the whole business. There was no pinball leagues. There was no tournament nights. There was no Killer Queen League night. Mm-hmm. There was no whatever, It seems like, is this, now you tell me if this is true, do you have to have these sort of like events to like really keep your customer base, to keep that, to keep them engaged and coming back?
Well, I think that helps. I think that a lot of people that we see that open up arcades, barcades, are people that see the explosion of them and think it's very much an if you build it they will come model, and it's not. We see those fail. What Kale and I both care a lot about, because we're in it for the fun. The second it stops being fun, we have other things we can do. So for us, it's very much about community, and we have these events because we love having all these parties every week and hanging out with these people that, that are so interesting that we know so many people very well, and we want to know what's happening, and it's very much a big family, and not in a cliche sort of way, but you go to the arcade, I guarantee if we go there right now, there's 15 people that, we know all about their lives. Hey, great to see you. Very Cheers type of situation. Right. Cheers, but with like 200 people.
And it's very literally a family. We've had people who have gotten engaged at the arcade.
People that want to get married there. People who have had babies.
And Rachel makes electric bat onesies for the babies.
Oh, that's awesome!
It's nothing on the website yet, but
it's just for
she hands them
the
out.
Players. If you're one of our players and you get pregnant,
let Rachel know.
Yeah.
I talk to you guys in the regular because we've been such good friends for now a number of years, but I also very closely follow your guys' social media posts, and it's very clear. And just looking at the posts, even if I didn't know you guys as well as I did, that your whole community thing is very evident in your posts. Like every time I see posts from you guys, I'm like, man, it just looks like there's always something fun going on over there. Yeah. And there's always, I'm like, there's always a lot of people hanging out there. It's like, it reminds me in a modern sense of how my arcade just games was in the 80s. Like when I was in junior high and high school, how like everybody just would go hang out there and play games.
Yeah, you knew if you went there, you were going to see people that you knew.
There were no cell phones.
Right, and people would come there looking for me because they knew I wouldn't be home. And more often than not, he's probably at the arcade. If they called my house, my mom would just go to this game. He's probably there. Or even just call there, ask for him. And people did. It's like the arcade became my answering service also. But I mean, and I made so many friends at my local arcade, and I see that kind of thing. Like I said, it just shines through on your social media posts. I'm like, I bet there's a lot of people there that became friends at your arcade.
So many.
Oh, 100%.
And now they become regulars because like now you got this community of like-minded people. Let's go hang out and play games at the Bat. You know, for me, it's like everybody's like, let's go to Just Games. You know,
yeah, and it really goes further than that. Now, we'll see groups of people and we'll join them. We'll go do different things. Like we'll leave the arcade and go to a comedy show together, and then in the night playing pinball. I mean, it really is becoming a true family. It's a lot of fun.
But it's not just, I guess, what the other version of answering that question is. It's not just a matter of holding like, oh, we've got 9 IFPA tournaments this month or something. It's not just holding the tournaments, because we could put those on the calendar and have someone run them. Nobody would care, right? It's like just the involvement of everybody and that sort of thing. But then on the flip side, I do, and I've talked about this quite a bit as well, I think that there's such a strong desire to have more analog in your life. You listen to records, I read books, you make music. I mean, these are all like, and so many people, you know, you just have your phone or your Switch or what, you know, you got your computer job. It's really like kind of feels like a biological need to like do things, like physically do things. So I think that pinball specifically, but like going to a place where you matter to some people and doing something physical is just a very important thing at this time. So
also like it's a great way to make like lifelong friends. I have friends I met at when I was in junior high school, early 80s. I made friends at Just Games. You know, we met at the arcade and became friends that are still some of my best friends to this day, you know, in my mid 50s. So, I mean, like that I can't, what's the word? I can't stress enough the importance of a place like yours for bringing people together to form friendships and relationships and like that kind of stuff. Like you say, you can't get that on your Switch. I can't get it on my phone. I can't get it in most places these days. Like that place where I could go and hang out with these we have guaranteed I got something in common with somebody that's at your arcade because we're both there because we like games. Like we're all there because we like games. And then, like I said, that's a great way to meet people that could become some of my best friends for the rest of my life.
And it gives you something to do, because it's weird if you were in a dating scene or something and you're trying to like, well, I'll go to a bar and hang out. Well, okay, all you can likely be doing is like sitting there, and it can be very awkward, right?
Right, yeah.
If you're in a room full of games, like you can play games and not talk to anybody.
Right.
But then if you happen to see somebody cool, I mean, dating, friendship, whatever, just meeting people in general.
It's funny that you mention that, because didn't you just have someone get in touch with you who wanted to do a pinball speed dating?
Yes. Yeah. I had forgotten about that. Yeah, I think
that's actually a really clever idea.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, so for most of my life until recently, I was a very shy person. And back when I was like in junior high and high school, like I was extremely shy. I was more like an outcast. I was like a punk rock kid in a time that punk rock wasn't accepted, or was like, it was frowned upon, and people would pick on me for that. And on top of the fact I was like a video game and pinball nerd. But when I was at the arcade, it gave me more self-esteem because like I was good at games, and like that was like, this is my domain and this is like my turf basically, right? And it helped me make friends where I might not have made these friends in any other place on the planet. Like certainly not at school. Like my friends that were 1 year older than me that turned me on to punk rock, I was very intrigued by this whole punk rock thing without even hearing the music, just by the look of these kids when they started dressing punk rock. I'm like, they look like how I feel. Like this thing might be for me, but I was too afraid to talk to them. I'm like, they're gonna beat me up or they're gonna pick on me, right? Like, because they're a year older than me, and I'm like shy and timid kid. But those guys came to Just Games regularly, and so I started talking to them because they're in my arcade.
Right.
Like this is my home. And then they're some of my best friends, and they turned me on to punk rock, and that totally changed everything about my life. I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for punk rock, because that led me to all the things, all the past, my forks in the road, all started that with punk rock and just games. So, like, again, like, it's a great way to meet people where you have some thread of commonality that you guarantee, like, we like games. Maybe I'll talk to this guy or this girl that I wouldn't approach at a regular bar with no games, or on the street, or at a concert even, you know. Like, it's a great, like, it's awesome to be able to meet people in that way.
For sure. When I first got into pinball in high school, I guess I lived in a very rural area of South Carolina, and we had some arcades. We had, like, an Aladdin's Castle, I believe.
Like, in the mall. That was
the mallcades.
And we had a Barrels of Fun.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, and you actually walk through a barrel to get into it.
Yeah.
But we used to, in high school, we would play arcade at a sandwich shop, and then we had a really shady video poker place that had pinball. And so around Addams Family, Twilight Zone, Judge Dredd, Indiana Jones, all that good stuff. And we were playing, like, Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct. And so now I've moved here and see all of these pinball machines in these great arcades here. I'm seeing more pinball machines on the streets now than I did then. Is that true nationwide, or were there more pinball machines on the street back then? I think they sold more pinball machines back then, right?
It felt like back then there was more ones and twos, like in convenience stores, bars, restaurants. And now there's more, from what I see, more clusters, but they're, you know, you're not going to go to a Circle K and play pinball for a while.
Right.
I would agree 100% with what you said. You know, there was, and pinballs had the ebbs and the flows, or the ups and the downs. And, you know, like, when I started playing pinball, there were no video games yet. I was like 5 or 6, whenever I could reach the buttons. And then the video games came in, and I watched the arcade that was 50 pinball machines, because that was all that was. Or maybe some of those EM, you know, like driving game or whatever. Those things all started slowly trickling out as these new video games came in, like your Space War, your Space Invaders, your Pac-Mans. And so I watched just games go from 50 pinball machines to, like, you know, for the many years towards the end, or even in like the earlier 80s, you know, they had like maybe 6 or 8 pins at a time, and they would rotate them out when they would get new ones. But because the video games were hotter,
right? And
then in the 90s, like, pinball, it saw a big upswing, you know, around the time of, you know, Addams Family especially, right? Best-selling game ever. But even still, like, the video games were like 85% of an arcade, but you'd still see pinball machines at bars. And now you still see that, but it really depends on where you're at. I'd say major metropolitan cities, there's probably more pinballs and bars than there have been in probably 20 years. But you go to, like, more rural areas, and it's probably few and far between.
Sure. Yeah. There was a period in you know, where I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, where we didn't have. I thought pinball was done. After you know, your Addams Family, the run of Addams Family, Indiana Jones, all those good games, they all disappeared. We didn't have any more arcades. I had no idea pinball was even a thing, and my friends didn't either until I ran across Marco's Specialties. And I started working there, and I was like, holy crap, there's still a company making these machines.
Yeah.
And that would be Stern.
Stern, yep.
Yeah. So that was really exciting for me, and then now here I am. How has the pinball industry changed since you've been in it? You know, we've talked about on the street side, but how has the inside? How has the industry changed since you've been in it?
Well, the biggest thing is so many games get sold to people to put in their homes, And when I started in this industry, that was unheard of. Like only like the rich people, like the really rich people, might buy a brand new in the box pinball machine and put it in their house. Now, like everybody buys new in the box pinball machines and puts them in the house.
The LE, everybody wants the LE.
Yeah, but even but they buy the pros and the premiums too, of course. But yeah, like I said, when I worked at Williams, like owning a pinball machine seemed so like a foreign concept to me, even when I worked for the company.
Right.
And then when I got my first one, which is my Funhouse, I got it in a trade from one of my friends at work. Traded me his Funhouse machine that he got for working on it. And I'm like, oh my God, I have a pinball machine in my house. And then within a year, that turned into like 5. And then within a couple of years, like I had no more room left. Like I had 25 of them or something.
How many do you have now?
I have 19, I think.
Wow.
And it's about to go back to 20 because I'm bringing home my Stranger Things next week.
Oh, very good.
And then next week when I go back home.
The new run. You're getting
the new run. I'm getting a premium for the new run. Because I slept on it too long when we first ran them. And I always wanted it because up until Bond, that was my largest rule design role. Right. Or any kind of design role at Stern, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my largest rule design role until James Bond. So that game is very special to me. I'm very proud of it. And I really enjoyed working on it with the fabulous Freebirds, me and Brian and Lonnie. Right. Our strengths as a 3-man team really complemented each other.
Were you guys familiar with the show?
I was a big fan of the show, and we all liked it.
Yeah.
But I was ecstatic when we got that license because I love the show so much.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it gave me a great excuse to go back and watch it a few more times. You know?
Well, did you guys watch it together and get ideas? Or
we watched some
popcorn parties.
No, but we all watched them numerous times, and I travel a lot because from doing all those pinball shows. So I was watching them on the plane again, for the third, fourth time, and I would just jot notes on my phone as I was watching them of like things I thought could work in a mode, or whatnot, and the other guys did the same, and then we would get together for like daily or multi-weekly meetings, couple of week.
Right.
And then whittle down. We put all of our lists out, and then we'd all talk about everything, and then we'd make a list of the lists of like what were the strongest things.
Okay.
And then we kind of drill down from there. And that went on for a long time.
Very cool.
Is the design cycle the same amount of time? Since you've been in pinball?
Yeah, that hasn't changed in my time at Stern. I don't remember what it was at Williams. It was probably less, but the games were not as deep, nowhere near as deep and complex then as they are now.
Right.
Hey, can we pause for a second? I need some more water.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I'm trapped in here. I don't want to knock this over.
Oh, no problem.
Will you just fill this up?
Yeah. Well, let's take a short break, and we will be right back. And we're back through the magic of motion picture and Hollywood. Where were we? What were we talking about?
We were talking about the design cycle.
The design cycle, yeah. It hasn't changed at Stern since I've been there, but I think it was shorter at Williams only because, like I said, the games were not nearly as deep and complex as they've become over the course of time.
Wow.
Because, we sold them all to operators, and they were operating them in arcades and bars, and they didn't need to be that deep,
Yeah.
People weren't spending all this money to put them in their home and keep them for many years, or forever.
Right.
Planning them as a savings, a retirement account.
Yeah, it's so they have to be deeper so people don't get bored of them so fast, and it just kind of naturally evolved to that, and when I look at a rule set to like Addams Family, and then look at like James Bond, right?
Yeah.
It's like night and day,
right?
In that course of almost 30 years, I guess a close to 30-year difference, I guess. Yeah.
Now that you're here in Phoenix, I know you were very excited to come out here. Because we have some of your favorite restaurants.
And in fact, in some parts of the general Phoenix metropolitan area, you might have them all next door to each other.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, it is so great. Yeah.
We have Del Tacos are in pretty much every gas station.
Yeah, which we just learned that tonight. Like, I've never seen or even heard of a Del Taco in a gas station, but tonight, the three of us discovered 2 of them within 10 minutes of driving in a car.
Insane. We didn't even know this was a thing.
Yeah, and we didn't stop either one, by the way, just so you know.
We went on to the third, very fancy one, where there was a guy losing his mind, yelling at everybody.
I was really worried that it was going to escalate into some sort of gun violence.
We saw a public freak out is what happened. Yeah.
And it got ugly.
So we had, the first night, we had your favorite...
In-N-Out Burger.
In-N-Out Burger. And then we did Del Taco.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do some Waffle House.
We have to, yeah.
Maybe tomorrow before the tournament.
That would be good,
if we get up early enough.
And again, provided I'm feeling okay, but so far so good, so I think we might be okay. We'll see what tomorrow brings.
The Waffle House...
we can push it.
Yeah, I'll see how many times can I roll the dice before trouble happens, you know?
The Waffle House phenomena is it's new to me. Because when I met you, you were all excited about Waffle House. And I was like, what's the big deal? I grew up around literally hundreds of Waffle Houses.
And we have none in Illinois.
Yeah, you have none. Yeah. I thought everybody had Waffle House.
I wish.
Did you know Georgia has more Waffle Houses than any other state?
No, but I believe it.
Yeah, hundreds and hundreds of them.
So here's some interesting Arizona trivia that pertains 100% to you, Rachel, especially.
Oh.
My first... experience. I always was aware of the Waffle House, and when I was dating my ex-wife and when we were married, we took a couple of road trips near St. Louis when we stayed across the street from a Waffle House that she refused to go eat at with me, and at that point I had never eaten at one because we don't have them, right? My very first Waffle House was in 2019 when I came out here for ZapCon.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. I remember because I told you I went to the Waffle House and now I'm in love. That's what I told you. And you're like, you never had it before? I'm like, no, I finally got to eat at one. Because, like, again, I got vetoed twice on 2 trips to the same place with my ex. And the one meal at the Waffle House, I fell in love.
Right.
And then every time we ever traveled, when you guys worked at Marco, if it was at a place that had Waffle House, I had to go every day.
Sure. And that was just a regular place for me to eat, especially when I was on the road touring with a band.
Yeah,
that's what you did because you're traveling late night.
They're open.
They're open 24/7. That and Huddle House.
I never heard of that before.
Huddle House is similar.
Yeah.
I just maybe they don't have waffles, but they have everything else. Yeah, so that was
So I learned about Waffle House from professional wrestlers because when the wrestlers are on the road, because they travel, all year round. Like again, it never closes. They do a show, then they're gonna go hit the next town.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of options, especially late at night.
Yeah.
Or early in the morning, so they would often hit Waffle Houses.
Maybe that's why there are so many fights in Waffle Houses.
Maybe.
That's like the tradition.
Yeah.
Wrestlers.
I've never, ever witnessed a fight at a Waffle House, but...
You've seen the videos.
Yeah, I've seen the videos.
It's been on the internet.
I also don't go to the Waffle House in the middle of the night. Like, I'm not the drunken bar. I close the bar crowd where at 2 o'clock you get kicked out because the bar is closed, and I go there to sober up and fight. I go to the Waffle House like for breakfast or lunch or maybe an early dinner, but I'm not going at like 2 a.m.
Right.
So I'm not privy to all the weird, sketchy bullshit that happens.
Sure.
Can I say bullshit on the show?
You can say whatever you want.
You can actually say whatever you want.
All right, that sketchy bullshit that everybody was like, well, why would you go eat there? I'm like, because every time I go, it's normal people are in there, and the staff is beyond friendly, and they cook my food perfectly.
Very
always.
Respectable.
Yeah.
Yes, man.
You know what's funny when you mentioned that professional wrestlers turned you on to Waffle House, and you talk about, well, of course you did, because you were in a touring band. It makes you think about all of the professions that you think are glamorous, and you find out that, like, really they're going from Waffle House to Waffle House, sleeping like 5 guys to a room.
And that was largely the wrestlers, especially in the territory days, and even throughout the 80s, even WWF days, like those guys were on the road constantly. Like they'd make the show and then they'd get in the car and drive to the next city. Right. And they could be driving for, 10, 12 hours, and they're piloting however many can fit in the car, and they all share a room to cut down on the cost, And you're going for the Waffle Houses from, wherever you can, because that's about your only option of where what you're getting, and it's like consistent and good. I mean, their food, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah, we did the same thing as a touring rock band. we would eat mostly at gas stations. And back then, gas stations did not have the healthy options you have these days.
Right.
And so it was horrible for you.
Like the hot dog rollers, yeah.
Hot dog rollers, maybe some beef jerky.
Right, yeah.
Potato chips.
These were staples of my, teens and even very early 20s.
Right.
Like, just being a young guy with not a lot of money.
Sure.
I would eat gas station food, or you go to a concert and then afterwards you're starving.
Right.
So you go to 7-Eleven or you go to a gas station and get beef, like you say, beef jerky and a hot dog that's been sitting out there for 16 hours.
We would be on the road for sometimes 2 weeks at a time, and you have to find a laundromat. You share one room with 6 guys, and so you're fighting for a bed.
God, I'd hate to be the last guy to use the bathroom in the morning, and in that scenario.
I mean, really,
from the
even
gas
the
station
second
food.
or third is
right. Yeah, it's you got to be first.
Your constitution can't pull that off after a certain age. That's why touring is a young man's game.
That's why the old bands break up, or they only do it when they're on tour buses or just
you're Brian May, and you can just fly the jet.
Or you're Iron Maiden, you own your own 747 or whatever, and you fly yourself to every city.
The best part was we had a per diem, and that was all the money we had.
It was $4 a day.
It was something like that, and then we thought you know what? If we pooled our money together, we could get a bag of weed and then get a loaf of bread and some ham and then eat on that. But then we'd have something to smoke. Yeah. So.
But then you'd have the weed and you'd need more. You'd need chips.
Yeah, you'd be even more hungry. That wasn't a very financially smart decision.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, here I am now. Right?
You're also 19.
I was very lucky to do something like that very young.
Yeah, so the 3 favorite places, all within sometimes a few feet of each other here. You guys have it made.
Yeah.
There's also Whataburger, which people care about.
Yeah, that's not very good. I mean, so it's better than your McDonald's or your Burger King, but it's pretty underwhelming. But I now have a new soft spot for the Whataburger because Jimmy Howard, the mouth of the South, bought me dinner at Whataburger last month.
How did you meet him?
Okay, so I did the I always mess up this name. I'm sorry, David. The Music City Multicon.
Okay.
David Kerrigan and his wife put on this. It's a really nice show. It's got full of games plus pop culture stuff, comic books and toys.
In Nashville.
It's in Nashville, Tennessee. Yep. So this year, and it was just last month. It was in beginning of November, I guess. Yeah. They did the show, and they had a bunch of legend, wrestling legends. So they had the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Okay. They had the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. They had Mike Rotunda, who was he is also known as IRS. They had Scott Steiner, and they had Ron Simmons, Ron Simmons worked one of our wrestling shows for one of the 2 companies I work for. He was one of the nicest guys I ever met, of a legend. He was awesome. So I got to say hi to him again. So the first night they had a VIP dinner for all the special guests. So I was sitting and had dinner with Ted DiBiase and Jimmy Hart, and then farther down the line was Ron and Steiner didn't go, and Mike Rotunda, but they were sitting too far away to engage in conversation. But Troy Smith and I had talked to Ted DiBiase and Jimmy Hart most of the dinner because we're all sitting right next to each other.
Right.
The next day, all those guys all left and left Jimmy at the show, and Brent from the Broken Token podcast goes, I was talking to Jimmy Hart, and he comes up, he goes, hey, I need to ask you something real fast. Come here. So I walk away from Jimmy Hart to talk to Brent, and he goes, hey, somebody told me that Jimmy Hart wants to go to Whataburger and get something to eat. Well, do you want to take him? I'm like, yeah, I'll take him. Are you kidding me? I don't even like that place, but I'll go just to hang out with him and talk wrestling some more, And so I came back. I'm like, Jimmy, I hear through the grapevine that you want to get some Whataburger for dinner. And he goes, yeah. I'm like, you want me to take you? I'm like, I'll drive you over there. I got a car. I'm like, he goes, yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm like, all right, I'll even treat because I was just going to, make Stern pay for it.
Sure.
And he goes, no, baby, I'll treat for you.
You're kidding
I'm
me.
like, really? He goes, I would love to. He goes, be my honor. I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay.
Very cool.
So I'm like, so we got in my car. We went to Whataburger, and then he bought me dinner. And he is the nicest guy. Like, we were just sitting there, like, shooting the shit about just our lives in general, not just talking wrestling. But
how cool is
he was
that?
asking me about, like, what I do and whatnot. And then, you know, we're talking about all kinds of stuff. But it was like two, you know, it almost felt like two old friends. And I just met him, like, the night before. And he, like, nicest guy. And then, like, some of the dudes that worked at the Whataburger, like, they recognized him. They didn't know his name, but they recognized him from seeing him you know, on TV or whatever. And
did he still have the mullet and the sunglasses?
Oh yeah, and he had the megaphone. It was in the.
You're kidding me.
He left it in my car. Like, he didn't bring it in the restaurant. But yeah, and so
wow.
What have you ordered with that?
And they were like, you know, one of the workers like, can I get a picture with you? And he was happy to do it, you know.
That's amazing.
And then, but then they took a picture. They took a picture of the two of us, me and Jimmy. So, and then I posted on my social media. But yeah, he was super awesome. So
how cool is
I didn't
that?
really like the Whataburger. It's okay. Like I said, it's better than McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's.
Who has the best burger?
Oh, well, if it's fast food burger, you gotta distinguish.
Oh, okay.
It's In-N-Out Burger without a doubt. There's not even a close second.
How do you feel about Five Guys?
It's terrible.
Huh.
It's
What?
It's overpriced, greasy shit. Like and
No,
their fries
sir.
are
No, sir.
There's one
No.
there's one a half mile from my house, and I
No.
wouldn't go there if you bought it for me.
Five Guys is an amazing burger.
And their fries are garbage.
What?
They're like a greasy
Those
bag
are like
of
the
slop.
best. Those are the best
terrible.
fries. They're
Weigh
fresh
in.
cut.
You can email
man.
us.
The
Join the Discord.
The coolest thing I will
put a
say
poll.
about Five Guys is they've got the Coke machine of the future where you touch the screen and you can put any flavor together. 'Cause
Anything.
I would get raspberry Coke and grape Coke, but I don't drink pop anymore except on extremely rare circumstances.
Birthdays.
Not even that. Like,
Oh.
if I go to Dog and Suds Root Beer, which is way out in Grays Lake, it's about an hour north of me. They make their own root beer. I'll drink it there. That's about the only time.
Yeah.
So, like, now the Five Guys has nothing for me.
Okay.
You know, I'm not going to waste a burger on that one because, like, first of all, we got Kuma's Corner. Like, so if I'm gonna,
We talked about that on the podcast.
I took you guys there.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I took you guys there.
We had a burger with chicken and waffles.
Yep.
And that's not like two separate things.
It's all together in the
It's
burger.
all together. Burger, chicken, and waffles. And you're a big Italian meat fan.
Italian beef.
Italian beef.
Yeah. Italian meat's something totally different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Different show.
That's a whole different show.
Yeah.
We have a place.
Johnson.
Yeah.
we have a place right down the street here.
Luke's of Chicago.
Oh yeah,
Luke's.
we're gonna try that. So
We're gonna get a wet sandwich, a wet Italian beef.
Yeah, so we'll see if it really is like authentic or if it's just a total
I
work.
can't wait to see what you think.
Yeah,
because the locals seem to love it.
Today we saw an ambulance when we drove by.
That's a little disturbing to me. Like, I'd like to hope that maybe, well, you know, somebody could have been there, eaten there so many times that they got a heart attack. You know, I would certainly know things about that nature. So.
We've all done so many pinball conventions together.
Yeah.
Can we come up with a consensus of which one is the best?
No.
No, I can
they're
tell
too
you
different, right?
I would tell you my favorite one is probably the Texas Pinball Festival because it's so big and there's so many fans there. And they would do the Twippy Awards and they do the whole autograph session. Like, they really do it upright.
It's a well-run show.
It's a really well-run show. It's a really nice area that's in. There's an In-N-Out Burger 1 mile away. You know, but I mean, and the weather is perfect that time of year. I mean, it's got there's so much going for it, and it just draws us a massive crowd. You know.
Right.
And they really treat it like the big deal that it should be, which pinball is a big deal to us.
Yeah. Is that the biggest show?
It is. I believe it is.
Yeah.
Certainly the biggest pure pinball show.
Okay.
Is it bigger than Northwest in terms of number of games, though? Northwest, I feel like, has...
I feel
the Northwest Pinball and Arcade Show. I feel like that.
That's tough because the layouts are like one's longer and narrower, but it's like stretches forever.
TPF has like way more booths and like more featured people and things, but I feel like Northwest may have more games,
more actual games to play. Yeah, I'm not sure.
And then but then we were talking earlier about like the people in the Portland show and the Tacoma show
are
very. It's a very diverse and cool crowd. I like to go to Expo because that's where we like to see all of our industry friends.
Yeah, Expo is super fun, even though it's far from my favorite show. but it's the longest running one. And for me, it's like the high school reunion type show.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's the industry reunion show. Like I'll see like Ken Fidesna, who was my boss at Williams Valley Midway. Like he was the vice president there. I absolutely love Ken, and I typically only see him at Expo, and then once in a while we might get together for lunch in a small group of us that used to work underneath Ken, you know. But so that's a big deal to catch up with. Or guys like David Thiel, who I only see like at the Tacoma show, and if he comes to Expo, you know, guys that don't live in the area anymore, but are like colleagues or just industry friends of mine. So Expo is great for that. I like every show for a different reason, you know, and and none of the ones I go to, like they're all great. There's not a bad one in the bunch. But, you know, I like but there's different reasons why I think they're great shows, you know.
Have you guys done the Houston show?
Oh, I love that show.
God, what a party.
Again, that's what it is. That one is very unique of like, it's like a game show, a pinball and video game show by day, and then like around dinner time it becomes like
insanity.
It becomes a nightclub.
It's a concert.
So they have these fantastic artists play. He typically gets a lot of the same ones every year, and he could do that for the rest of our lives.
And that's Keith Christensen.
Yeah, Keith. And he could book the same acts every year, and I will never get bored because that Atari Mac guy is a genius.
Yeah.
And then the JG and the Robots is really awesome, and the Harp Twins, like they're not my cup of tea, but they're still super entertaining.
So cool. They do Zelda music.
Yeah, so they're very entertaining.
Have you seen them, Rachel?
No.
Oh,
yeah.
I am the one person here who has never made it to Houston. It was
gotta
always
come
a conflicting show.
This year it's coming in. It's going to be in October this year.
Right.
Okay.
So that for me backs it up to where there's 3 shows in a row. I was like Houston, Portland, Expo. So I don't know why I moved it a month early this year. Sorry, next year. It's not this year yet.
It just happened last month.
It was last month, and I went to it, and I had I always have a fantastic time at the show.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gone, like, that's my 4th time, I think.
So we were in Austin when that show was going on. We thought about just going over.
You should have. It was awesome.
Yeah. We had some we were actually... we were excited about playing a pinball tournament at Pinballs in Austin. But
I've heard of that place, but I've never been to Austin.
They're like 70 machines. We didn't ever make it out there.
But the TD was in Houston. So they canceled. Actually, the whole pinball scene was in Houston. So it was just us, and we decided to go to a comedy show instead, which was nice.
Yeah, but I really love going to all the shows, and I go to more now than I've ever gone to. You know, like I think I do about 12 a year. But man, it's become one of my favorite parts of my job. And there's just because every city, every one of those shows has such a good community around those shows. Like the crowd is fantastic. I love meeting people and talking to them about the games and answering their questions and playing games with them when they ask. That's such a treat for me, you know, like
when you first got in the business, were there this many shows?
No.
There was like Expo and California Extreme.
Yeah, and that was it. And I never went to California Extreme until I started working at Stern. I always wanted to go, but I was too cheap to go there on my own dime. Like, I'm like, all right, so I didn't know anybody in the area where I could stay. So I would have to fly out there, then get a hotel, then buy the tickets to the show. Right. And it just seems so cost prohibitive to me. Not that they're overcharging, but for, for me, and especially in various times, like, it was like a big outlay of cash for me.
Sure.
And, I had things I would have rather spend the money on.
We all know what those vinyl things are.
And, just my bills and whatnot, but largely records. So I didn't go until I went for Stern, and then I'm like, I regret not going all those years before.
Right.
Because that show is awesome. Plus, I love TJ and Ken. So the best part of that show is getting to hang out with them, but again, and there's so many great games that you only see there.
Yes.
That one's really special for seeing rare, unique stuff.
That's right.
Video and pinball.
At one time when I was there, they had 2 Kingpins side by side.
Yep.
And I think that year you entered me into Ken's the World Championship.
Oh, the Panic Park.
Panic Park.
You almost died.
They almost killed me.
Yeah, those people fight over that game.
Oh, it was insane. There's video somewhere on Marco Specialty's social media, but I took down the reigning champion.
Yeah.
And then went into just an absolute battle with the guy who ended up winning. I got second place. But then I went to the hotel room and passed out.
Yeah, like he was sweating in a way that made me think he was having a heart attack. Like something was not right. This wasn't just like a normal, I've overexerted myself. It's, I need to be like horizontal now. God, it was crazy.
Was it California Extreme where I met the little flippers for the first time?
I think so.
Well, like the Moretti family. Or was it Southern? I'm sorry.
Go-Go.
Oh no,
or Golden State.
Golden State.
All right,
yes.
I mean that was a highlight because I love that family so much.
Yeah,
and
it was so good.
Anna, she's my favorite kid in all of pinball. Like, it's such a fun time to get to hang out with that family. Like at that show.
That one photo, and I don't know who took it. I may have taken it, but where she's taunting you.
Oh, this kid.
It was so great.
It was awesome. And then Marco made a banner of Anna and me playing pinball, and I still want them to print me one of those. So I want to hang it up in my basement office of like the two of us when she challenged me to a game at one of those shows.
For people that don't know, Anna at the time was maybe 6.
She was 6 years old
and had a stool because she was only about 3 feet tall.
Yeah,
if even that. I mean,
and
she was tiny.
and she was a good player, and she is such amazing like character. Like she was trash talking me the whole time, and really animated when she played, and
she beat you.
And she beat me, like legit. Like I tried. I wanted to throw the match and I couldn't. I mean, I didn't have to. Like she put up like over 100 million on Iron Maiden. Like I had to actually work for it, and then I didn't. It wasn't like I took a dive.
Right.
And then she rubbed it in my face when she saw me the next time. I beat you. I love that kid.
That was so great. Yeah. That was a really fun show.
Yeah. Last year, was it last year or this year? Maybe it was last year. Like she hung out in our booth the whole time and made me play Switch games with her. Like we were playing like Super Smash Brothers and stuff.
How cool
so,
is that?
Yeah, it was so much fun.
Wow, just to really grow up seeing this.
And I hadn't seen her in it was like 3 years because of COVID. Because of COVID. So like now she was like 9 years old,
Wow.
And then, I saw them twice this year, at the shows. And, it's such a treat. Like things like that, like make the job for me. It's like I meet this wonderful family, and they're, Mike and Katie and their 3 awesome daughters, and they're just such genuinely fun, nice people to be around.
Super cool. They just sent us some stuff for tomorrow's tournament.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I don't even know what it is.
They came out and visited. God, they're great people.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
If you're in the area, go to Flipper Room.
Go to the Flipper Room. Yeah, they're such awesome people. I love them.
Are you any shows coming up for you and Stern?
Not this calendar year. I'm done. But it starts up again in March for me. I mean, Stern will have a presence at other things that they do early in the year, like CES. They always do CES, right? But I don't get to do that one. But so for me, the next year's tour starts in March, and there's a lot of shows in March. I think I might be doing one every week for the whole month.
Wow,
good times.
Busy.
Yeah.
You're the guy on the road now, on tour.
I am, I always tell I tell people like I'm on tour for part of the year as part of my job. I love it though. It's great. It's exhausting, but it's worth it to me. It's fun. It's a lot of long days, but like I said, meeting the people and being out there being able to talk about our games, and the company having that kind of faith in me to go out there and represent the company means a lot to me. Like they have that kind of trust in me, and like they value it. So it's a bit. I'm honored to do it.
Yeah, right on. Good deal. Well, it's getting super late here.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
it feels like we were just at some gas station Del Taco, and now,
right.
And now here it is, like 4 hours later.
Watched a guy get the police called on him.
Yeah. It's probably time for the wrap up. I think we'll quickly mention the sponsors of the show, Marco Specialties, who you work with still.
I travel with them a number of times a year, and I love them. I always refer to Marco as my second pinball family, or my traveling pinball family is how I consider them. So I love that group.
Yep, love those guys. Check them out at marcospecialties.com. They sell everything pinball. Get your parts and all your what is that new thing you just got?
The pin jack.
The pin jack.
Oh, those things are awesome.
Yeah.
Like, they brought them to a show. One of the shows that we did, and I'm like, man, I need to get some of these.
Yeah,
I still need to get some of those.
Yeah, we have one. You can play with it tomorrow at the arcade. And special thanks to Game Room Goodies, where they supply us with all of our games and actually weld a lot of parts for us. We love those guys. And last but not least, Stern Insider Connected. Man, we're loving Insider Connected.
I love it too, yeah. And I'm sure all your listeners know that we released the app fairly recently, you know?
Yes, we've been using it, and we've been telling all of our players to use it. It's a lot of fun. And what's really cool is all of the time-sensitive missions.
Oh, the quests.
The quests.
Yeah, there's a bunch going on this month. Like, as we speak, I think there's at least a couple still running. I got sick and missed out on a big chunk of them because I was too sick to even go in my own basement. I missed all 7 days of Bond.
They had a bunch of cool Bond stuff.
Yeah, I missed the whole thing because I was down with COVID and I couldn't have the energy to even go to my basement to turn on my Bond game just to scan it. I'm like, I can't do it, you know?
Yeah.
Sadly, I missed out on all those badges.
Yeah, good deal.
But but there's a lot of cool stuff happening this month with that.
Yeah, love that. Check out, go into the Apple App Store or the Google, what they call it, the Play Store. Download the app.
I don't know anything about those green.
You don't know about the Google stuff?
All the green text phones, like, those are beneath me.
Yeah. Search Stern Pinball Insider Connected and download that app. Create an account if you haven't already and get connected and make sure you're logging in and tracking all your scores and seeing how you're comparing to your friends' scores. I think we're going to take off. We're going to get some sleep before the big tournament tomorrow.
I think we'll put a Five Guys versus In-N-Out poll in the Discord.
I would love to know.
Yeah. So join us on Discord. Yep. Send us an email at electricbatarcade@gmail.com. Ask questions for us, Mike. I don't know. We may have a chance to do one more podcast with you before you leave town.
I'll do as many as you guys want. I mean,
right on. Maybe we'll do one from the arcade.
You guys know where to find me. I'm in the room right across from yours in your house.
Yeah. Good deal. Well, thank you for joining us, Mike. It's been an absolute blast.
Thanks for having me on again. Like I said, I'll do this anytime with you guys. I love you guys. And I love doing this stuff too. So it's a real treat for me.
Right. You have the best stories, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
I'm
deal.
sorry my voice is kind of blown out. Like, I was sick for a week, and then we've been talking so much, like the last 2 days I've been here, that I blew out what was left of my voice last night when we stayed up way too late, like talking, not on
we should have been recording that.
We should have recorded
that was really juicy stuff.
Yeah. You guys should have heard what I revealed last night. You know?
Good deal. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and we're going to take off. And right now, the bats are out.
Mike will show you the
secret handshake.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I think we did this at
we did it last time.
Yeah, we did this before.
All right, Mike. Thank you.
Out.
Okay, we're out. Appreciate it.